Hello everyone, Razzle to Dazzle Fadazzle here with another PvP meta builds guide for Guild Wars 2. Today we'll go over the Elementalist, but first, before I even start with that, I'm going to mention that on my last build guide for the Guardian, I didn't mention any other builds besides Mediguard, and I had told you that there are multiple builds for all the guides. Well, Guardian unfortunately has one of those things where it's just there's only one build for it right now. All the other builds that were previously in the meta for Guardian have kind of fallen off to the side due to meta changes for other classes, and so that's really just all it is for Guardian. Not getting down about Guardian being only meta because meta is awesome. We're all gonna get on to Elementalist. Also, while I may look like I'm wielding a staff, I'm not actually talking about any builds that have a staff in it. Staff is not that great for PvP. It doesn't have many very good skills. Its damage is inconsistent in a fight. It's very avoidable. The only really good thing it's for is CC, but there's other classes that can do that better. And generally the builds, any running Zerker build or even if running Celestial Amulet isn't going to help you out that much. So the Elementalist has two different types of builds. One of them is a Dagger build with Celestial Amulet, which is really all it's called, and then the other one is a Fresh Air build. So they're kind of opposites here, Dagger being more tanky, healy, a boony, kind of bruiser, brawler, meta build, while Fresh Air is very much like, come in, deal lots of damage, and die to the little thief that's hiding behind you. So firstly, I'm gonna go a bit fast on this because I don't want this to take too long because we'll be talking about two builds and I don't want to be a 40-minute video. So if, again, I'll say this at the beginning and at the end, do please comment, feedback, ask me questions. I'll have, don't hesitate to do any of that stuff because I'm going to go pretty fast through this one. So first we talk about the Dagger build, obviously using double daggers in both hands, and we'll be going over the traits, the weapons, the sigils, the amulet, and the rune in that order. So first of the traits, we'll be running a 00266 build, which means we put 2 into earth magic, 6 into water magic, and 6 into arcana. In the adept tree for earth, we'll be using earth embrace. It's just like a supplemental kind of stability. It's kind of nice to have it at the end where you're just kind of like, if you're in a big pickle and you need stability, it just kind of pops up. It is on a cooldown, 60 seconds, just like the Armor of Earth utility skill, so be aware of that, but still it's kind of passive stability that pops up. It also acts as a cantrip, so it's also kind of beneficial to this build because cantrips are a big part of Dagger. In water magic, which is one of our, again, both water magic and arcana are very important to this build. They're very strong trait lines, and that's the reason why this build is so powerful, is because water and arcana just kind of blow over fire, air, and earth with how awesome the traits are. In the adept tree, we're running cantrip mastery because cantrips are the main utility we'll be using. Aside from a heal and elite, the 3 utility skills are going to be all cantrips for this build. For the master trait, we'll be using soothing disruption, which also synergizes with our cantrips. Every cantrip will give vigor and regeneration, which also plays into our next trait in the Grandmaster tree, cleansing water, which removes a condition whenever regeneration is applied to you or an ally. So you'll be throwing out regeneration with your water attunements, and you'll also be throwing out regeneration on yourself because cantrips, so it's very synergetic in the water magic tree. In Arcana, we'll be running the 6th there. The first one is in the adept tree is going to be vigorous stamina for infinite vigor uptime because it's 5 seconds of vigor every 5 seconds when you crit. So if you're critting all the time, which we will be pretty much, all the time vigor, and it's just extra dodging on top of the other dodging you're gonna get from like energy sigil. In the master trait line, we'll be using elemental attunement for extra boon application to everyone around us. So not just us, but everyone else will be getting boons. So when you swap to fire, you'll be giving might. Whenever you swap to earth, you'll be giving protection. When you swap to water, you'll be giving regeneration. So again, that synergizes with cleansing water again, so you can remove conditions on other people too, on top of just being all around healy. And when you swap to air, you'll be giving swiftness. So it's like boons flying out everywhere. And in the Grandmaster tree, we'll be using Evasive Arcana, which is the bread and butter skill. It is the skill that makes Dagger what it is, gives it the extra healing it needs, it gives it some extra bits of damage and condi. Basically what happens is when you dodge at the end of your roll, you'll be casting a attunement based spell. Basically when you're in fire attunement and you dodge, at the end of the dodge, you'll do a fire blast. So it does a little bit of damage and applies burning. For water, which is the most important part, you'll be dodging, and at the end, you'll actually cast Cleansing Wave, which is a dagger, offhand dagger 5 skill for full healing. Not full healing all the way health, but the full healing of the skill, which is about 2,000, 1,800. So that's a quite significant heal just for dodging. In your air attunement, you'll be dodging and you'll have like a blinding flash kind of thing, so it blinds people around you. And then for the earth attunement, you'll dodge and do a churning earth, like a mini churning earth. So it doesn't do a whole bunch of damage, but it still applies a stack of bleeding and cripples. So there's the traits for you. Gone over really quickly with those. So it's really pretty self-explanatory what it's supposed to do. Like, you're supposed to be, when you're dodging, you're doing all these things. So you dodge to heal, you dodge to this, you dodge to that. It's very dodgy build. In fact, you probably dodge almost as much or more than a thief. So you're very evasive, and on top of that, very tanky because of the amulet you'll be choosing. Speaking of amulets, we're going over the sigils next. Not amulets, but sigils, amulets, and runes. Firstly, the sigils will be kind of versatile, actually. You can choose a lot of different sigils for this build. I personally use leeching energy just because I like extra dodges, and leeching is great for some extra damage and healing. You can even go as far as use doom and energy, or you can use doom and leeching, or some combination of that. Any weapon swap sigils are really nice for Ellie. Because, well, again, your attunement swapping counts as weapon swapping since we don't have any weapon swaps of our own. For the rune, again, very versatile. You can even use Rune of the Pack, which is what I use because I want the extra damage, extra fury, and crit and might from the pack rune, and it's really nice. You can also use Ogre. The old standard is Holbrook and Strength, although Strength not as much because might stacking isn't as important as it used to be since might got nerfed a little while back. So it's more important to have some more supplementary damage, or even Condi duration removal like the Holbrook does. It gives you negative 20% condition duration, so conditions won't last as long on you. And for the final thing, the amulets, we'll be using Celestial Amulet, which gives us everything we even ever wanted. Ellie uses every single stat in the game because everything it does applies condies, it does healing, it does tanking, it does this, it does that. It is the track of all trades for light classes. And so with all that, you'll be very tanky, you'll be healing all the time, and you'll be healing other people. So again, like I said, the Dagger Ellie is very much a team fight or team-orientated build, and you'll be pretty much participating in much of the team fights that go on in the midpoint or even other points if that happens. But you'll be generally hanging around other teammates most of the time, so you'll be buffing them and healing them as well. So that's Dagger. Again, we went through that really fast, so again, if you have any questions about that, well, like kind of really questionable thing about Dagger is like, oh, how often do you dodge? You dodge for everything, this and that. Again, I'll be trying to put out gameplay videos for all of these builds at a later date to kind of show you how things go. And even now, I'll be showing some extra footage in the background, kind of demonstrating what happens with each build. For the next build, Fresh Air, the Fresh Air, Bel Air, the Fresh Prince Air, Bel Air build. Much damage comes from this build. Much damage. Such damage, much hurt. We'll be using 6 in air magic, 4 in water magic, and 4 in arcana, so 606044. In the air magic adept trait line, we'll be using Bolts of the Heart. More damage, you know, when they're below 33% health, your damage modifier becomes 20%, so you'll do 20% extra damage to them. It's kind of an execution trait, so you can just get rid of them really quickly if they're below that percentage. Again, just lots of damage. In the master trait line, we'll be using air training. Again, lots of damage modifiers here, just 10% extra damage in air attunement. We'll be staying in air attunement a lot because of Fresh Air. And in the Grandmaster tree, we'll be using Fresh Air, the trait that makes this what it is. And Fresh Air means is when you crit in another attunement, not air attunement. It's like if you're in fire and you crit while in fire attunement, your air attunement cooldown is reset to 0, so it instantly is off cooldown and you can swap to it, which synergizes well with another minor trait in the master trait line, which when you swap to air attunement, you instantly cast a lightning strike for full damage. And that synergizes well because you can just like quickly swap to air and then hit 2-3 on your scepter, which is the weapon we'll be using, and you can instantly do a bunch of damage and blind them at the same time. So it's really cool to you'll be staying in air attunement quite often. Into the water magic trait line, the first trait line adept, we'll be using Cantrip Mastery again, because we'll be using Lightning Flash and utilities skills, because having a 32-second cooldown teleport is really nice. And I mean, you could go vital striking if you wanted to be kind of ballsy. Do that little extra percentage damage to people. You can if you want to. That's also an option if you want. But again, having defense on a very squishy class like this is really nice. And in the master trait line, we're using Cleansing Wave, just some extra Condi Clear because Fresh Air doesn't have a whole lot of Condi Clear like Dagger does. Your only other Condi Cleanse is on your Focus offhand in Earth Attunement, your number 4, which clears 3 Condis, so the extra Condi Clear in water, you know, when you swap to Water Attunement is really nice, and just a lot of extra. And Soothing Disruption doesn't really make that whole much of a sense because you're not using a lot of cantrips. You're only using 1 cantrip, and it's kind of a waste of a trade if you're not using something that doesn't have a lot of synergy with your bar. And in the Arcana trait line, in the Adept tree, we'll be using Vigorous Stamina. Oh, surprise. Just more vigor, lots of dodging. Again, just more defensive because, you know, we'll be using a Berserker Amulet for this build. Surprise. And having dodges and lots of defense while we're super squishy is really nice. And in the Master trait line, we'll be using Elemental Attunement because there's nothing else we can take in that trait line that's useful. And in fact, pretty much everything in the those are the only useful traits in the Arcana tree. You could argue, oh, bring the Scepter trait. When you're holding a scepter, your endurance recharges faster. Well, no, you just bring the Vigor one. It's much better. So those are the traits for the Fresh Air. Again, not that it's really, I mean, you probably looked up these builds before if you haven't searched here first. But again, these are just like, I can explain them a little bit, though these are kind of just the same traits as Dagger, so I already explained them. As far as the weapons go, again, like I said, Scepter Focus. For the sigils, you can, again, be very versatile with these. You can use Leeching, Air, you can use Air Doom, you can use Energy Leeching. Those are the ones that I use personally. I swap between a bunch of them, although I prefer Air Leeching because damage, just more damage. You can go for Energy if you're not that confident at dodging, so if you really need more dodges to make up for, you know, dodges that you don't exactly do well, that's okay too. The Rune, less versatile than Dagger because we're not really going anywhere else besides damage. Rune of the Pack is really nice because it's very consistent boost to our damage, crits and power-wise. It also gives Might, Fury, and Swiftness, so it's a nice supplementary boons for us. Ogres are a good choice because, again, it's just a like pure damage boost on top of Ferocity. A lot of people, some people will run Scholar with this build, I've seen or heard. Scholar is not that great. It's really just for if you really want that upfront burst. It's okay to bring that, but I prefer more consistent damage, so Rune of the Pack is my personal choice. As far as the amulet goes, again, I already said Berserker Amulet for that, you know, nice increase in Frosty, precision, and power, so just lots of upfront damage there. So guys, I hope you enjoy. These are the 2 builds for Elementalist, my second favorite class, my second main, in fact. And if you have any questions, I did forget to mention this last time, I do have a Twitter account. You can go there. You'll see my posts there up all the time, so you can follow me on Twitter and, you know, message me there, ask me questions there. You can ask me questions here in YouTube on the comments below. You can even message me in game because I put my game name in there. And feedback helps me a lot with these videos. I've gotten some feedback, though so far it's been all about my awesome looks, you know, because I make my characters look awesome. That's the only reason I even do these videos with only my character in the front, you know, just to show you how badass I am. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you want to see more. Like the video so more people can see it. I hope you will go out there with your fresh air of Bel Air, be fresh air, and okay, that's awful. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.